Hey guys, Mike here. Today I'm going to tie up a dry fly for fishing mountain streams. One of the things about our Tennessee mountain streams is they're usually freestone and they're usually moving pretty well, so we want a nice buoyant fly. So I'm going to tie a wolf style fly on a number 14 Tiemco 100. I'm going to use 8/0 yellow thread to start off. First thing we'll do is we'll put down a base of thread to the point of the hook. And for tail material, I'm going to use some light elk hair. And the reason I'm going to use elk hair for the tail is that elk hair is a very buoyant material, and I'm going to keep quite a bit of the elk hair underneath the thread wraps to create a more buoyant body. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is remove most of this fluff from the elk hair, and then I'll stack the hairs using my stacker to line up the tips. And with most of my mountain stream flies, I like a short tail. The short tail, in my opinion, keeps the fish from bouncing the fly out when they strike. I found that when you use a stiffer tail material like elk hair, when the fish hit it, it tends to pop out of their mouth. So I'm going to use a short tail. The first thing I'm going to do is attach the tail with 3 tight wraps, bring 1 wrap underneath the tail to set it, and then as I wrap forward, I'm going to pinch the elk hair so that it follows the hook parallel to the shank, and I'm going to very lightly wrap it forward to about the halfway mark. And that will give me, as you can see here, there's a little bubble of elk hair. That'll give me a base layer of elk hair that will trap some air, and because of the hollow properties, help this fly float better. Then we'll take the excess, pull straight up on it, and clip it off. Clean it up just a little bit. And we'll attach, leaving the thread at about the halfway point, we're going to attach the wing. Now for wings in this, I normally use, for wolf style fly, you'd either use calf tail or more elk hair, which you can, but for this fly I'm going to use polypost, because polypost, being a synthetic, is very buoyant and will help this fly float. So mount your polypost, give it a couple tight wraps towards the back to lock it in place, and then trim it off at an angle to help taper the body. Now we'll wrap back to the tail. And when we get to the tail, we're going to tie in a very small hackle. This is grizzly, probably size 20 or 22. And the reason for this hackle is we're going to palmer it forward on the body to trap more air bubbles to keep this fly a little more buoyant. So we just tie that in, trim off the stem, and we'll wrap the body. Now for the body, I'm going to use Australian possum. It's got a neat orange hue to it, and it's more of a hair than a dubbing, and it lies nicely along the thread, but it'll also have some guard hairs in there that will stick out and create a more buggy appearance. So we'll start about halfway up the fly, wrap down to the tail to get it started, and then come forward. Now these are big, solid flies. They can imitate or suggest a big March Brown or a drake of some sort, such as your Icenikas or a caddis. But they're, I guess you would call them an attractor fly. So notice how nice and buggy this body is with the guard hairs. That'll, again, help trap some air bubbles. Now we'll, using our small hackle pliers, we'll palmer this grizzly hackle forward in open wraps. One wrap at the tail, and then forward. And you can see how that creates a really nice buggy body with the ability to trap a lot of air in there. Okay, next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to set our wings. So in order to do that, push up on our wings, pull straight back to get them to spread just a little bit, and build a small dam of thread in front of the wings. That'll help them to stand upright. Then taking our dubbing needle, split the wings into 2 equal clumps in the middle of the body. And using a figure-8 wrap through the wings, underneath, through the wings again, and then in front. And that'll be all you really need. You can go to excess by wrapping little posts at the bottom of the wing, but it's not really necessary. For the hackle itself, I'm just going to use a brown saddle hackle. I find that the saddle hackles tend to be a little stiffer and help these flies ride a little better on our choppy freestone streams. Mount that and trim off the excess stem. Now, when you wrap this, don't be afraid to make it nice and dense. We want a fly that's going to float, so feel free to put as many wraps as you can fit on this fly. 6 or 7 not being too many. Leaving the yellow thread base, you can see where the brown hackle ends up. All right. Now we're going to come up, follow it around with half a wrap. Give it one more. Good. And holding back on the hackle, we can start our head. Notice this is not a Catskill style dry, so we're coming right up to the eye. Keeping tension on your thread, you can take your saddle hackle and just pluck it off. And to finish, I like to put just a dab of varnish on the thread before I wrap it so that I don't get varnish all over the leading edges of my hackles after I wrap the head. So then bring your finish your head. Give it a pinch, give it a tug. Clip off any errant fibers that you have going forward. Clip your thread, and then set your wings a little bit by giving them a tug and a primp. And there you have it. Nice Ausable Wolf style fly. You can pick out any of the really long hairs, but a nice Ausable Wolf style fly that will definitely float high in your mountain streams. Hope that helps you with your mountain fly tie. There are tons of flies that work really good in the mountains. Your elk hair caddis, your stimulators, any of your wolf pattern flies, dryettes, even some of your parachute flies will work well. So give it a shot, fish them in the mountains. Let me know how you like it. See you at the next swap.